So, yeah, hi all. Good morning. Hope I'm audible. Hi all, good morning. Hope I'm audible. Can anyone confirm?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, before we proceed with today's class, let's briefly review what we covered in our previous session. Okay. So, I think we have started with this syllabus. Just check. And I skipped it. Just give me a yeah. Yeah, we discussed about the syllabus in our previous classes. So we started with the syllabus for the Power BI course to get an overview of the topics we will be learning. Okay. So I hope you guys have gone through this syllabus. Okay. Then we discussed about the concepts. Okay. Concept of business intelligence, its definition, its significance, and all of those things. Okay. And after that, we examined different BI tools, okay, available in the market, okay, with a focus on the Power BI. Okay, so these are some different tools which are available in the market for reporting purposes. But as we are going with the Power BI, so we have discussed why Power BI is most widely used in the organization. Okay, so this is what we have discussed. After that, we also discussed the Power BI components like the Power BI desktop, Power BI service, BI mobile app. So we discussed the overview of all these things. We haven't gone deep into all these things today. So we will discuss each and everything in very much detail once we will go through all these topics. Okay. Then also we discussed this Power BI desktop functions, Power BI service functions, Power BI mobile functions. Okay. Finally, we covered some elements of Power BI, such as data sets, visualization, tiles, reports, dashboards, and all these things. Okay. And I think we have also discussed, yeah, we have also discussed the four views of the Power BI desktop. That is the data view, report view, model view, and DAX query view. Okay. So all these things we have covered in our last class in the demo session. I hope you guys have gone through the recordings. Okay. So let's start the today's topic. Okay. So we will start with as I have already explained you how to install the Power BI in your system, like you have two ways. Okay? First, you can open the Microsoft Store, and it's just a very simple process. Let me explain that again. You have to open it here, and here you just have to search for the Power BI desktop. Okay? Here you will get the install button, but as I have already downloaded it, I'm getting the open option. So you can just click on install and then next, next, next. It's not too complex process. Okay, you can just easily install it. Okay? And the another way, you can just go in your browser and you can just search for Power BI desktop download. Okay? You just have to go to the official Microsoft site and just have to click this one. From here, you can just click on download. You get download. Okay. So these are the two ways by which we can download the Power BI desktop in our system. Now, okay. Now let's go ahead and let's launch the Power BI desktop in my system. So I will just search for the Power BI desktop. Okay. So today we will focus on learning how to import the data from different sources into Power BI desktop. Okay. So let it just open. Then we will see how we can import the data into the Power BI desktop. Click on the bank report. Okay. Now that I've opened the application, you can see the graphical user interface. Okay. As we discussed earlier, Power BI desktop has four main views. Okay. Here we show these are the four main views, and these four views you can find it here: the report view, the table view, the model view, and the DAX query. Okay. So this is the GUI when you open the Power BI desktop. And right now we are in the report view. As you can see, it is highlighted in uh, black color. Okay. So if we switch to the table view, then the step is sometimes it happens. My system, I don't know why. System, when it opens. Uh, start fine. Now it has. If I will go to the table view, here we can see we don't have any data in here. Well, it is just empty because we haven't imported any tables. Okay. Likewise, in the model view also, there will be no relationship between the tables as we don't have any table. Okay. Now, so as we don't have any data in my Power BI desktop, so we have to import some data. Okay. So to bring the data into the Power BI, you have to be in the home tab. Okay. And you have this option, get data option. Okay. This is where you can connect the Power BI to various data sources. Okay. So today I will demonstrate how to connect Power BI desktop to various types of data sources. Okay. Including the CSV file, Excel workbooks, Microsoft SQL Server databases, and some of the web-based database sources also. Okay. So this will help you understand just how flexible and powerful Power BI is. Okay. So let's just start by importing the data from an Excel file or a CSV flat file. So first, you have to click on here, get data. Okay. At first, you will see some common used data sources listed here. as you can see. Okay. To explore more options, you have to click on this more. Okay. And then, okay. So here in the new window, here you can see a wide range of data sources supported by the Power BI. Currently, Power BI supports connections to over 100 different data sources, as you can see. These are the data sources by which we can connect our Power BI. Okay, so that is the key reason why it's not only popular but also the most widely used BI tool in the market today. Okay, so since we are importing the CSV file or the flat file, you just have to select this one, text CSV. Okay, once you will select it, then you have to click on connect. Okay, then Power BI will promote you to the cross for the file on your system. Okay, so navigate to the location where you have saved it. Okay, in my case, I think I've saved it my PC. And these are some text CSV files. Let me just check which I can go. CSV. Let me bring this. I will click on open. So I'm just trying to connect with my data source. Okay. Once Power BI connects to the file, it will display a preview of the data. Here you can see it is the preview of the data, and here you will see a snapshot of the table, including the column headers and a sample of the data rows. Okay. So remember, this preview is limited to up to 200 rows. Okay, of your data set. And also you will notice that Power BI automatically detects the delimiter here, that is the comma. Since we have imported the CSV file, that is the comma separated values file. So that is why it is showing the delimiter as comma. Okay. Once you have selected your file, okay, and viewed the preview, you will have two choices here. Okay. That is the load the data or transform the data. Okay. So let's try to understand between these load data and transform data. What is the difference between this? Okay. So let's say if you click on this load data, okay, as I'm doing now. So Power BI will attempt to import the data directly into the Power BI desktop. Okay. Let me show you. If I will click on this load data, it's trying to load data. So see, as I have selected load, okay, now what it is showing on checking the error, it indicates that some transformations are required before the data can be successfully loaded into the Power BI desktop. Okay, this is common scenario, which is why in most cases it's recommended to use the transform data option first. Okay, rather than directly loading the data. Okay, here as I have selected the load data, and it is the Power BI is trying to load the data directly into the Power BI desktop. And while loading the data, it is giving me this error. Okay, and this error it is giving me because the Power BI has found some transformation is needed in the Power Query editor. Okay. So at this point, what I will do is, uh, so here what we have to do is, if I will go and click on view errors, okay, so it will take me to the Power Query editor, okay, where we transform the data. Okay, here you can see it's showing me the errors in order CSV file. There will be Here you can see it is the red mark. Okay. So this is the error where it is showing us. Okay. So at this point, what I will do, I will just close this Power Query editor. Now, let me now walk you through the proper approach to load the data. Okay. So again, what I will do is, okay, again, I will go to this get data, and here I will again select the text CSV. Again, I will bring the order CSV, and I will click on open. Now, instead of clicking on this load, I will select this transform data. So see what will happen. So here you see, by following this approach, you will avoid the error we saw earlier. Okay. Instead, you will be taken to a new window. Okay. So this new window is nothing but the Power Query Editor, Power BI's inbuilt ETL tool. Okay. It's where you can clean the data, transform the data, prepare your data before loading into the Power BI text. Okay. And you will notice a few things right away, like the previously imported file order CSV is already here. Here you can see. And there is also the second instance, that is the order CSV2, which we just brought in through the transform option. Okay. So within the Power Query Editor, you can carry out all the required data transformation, such as renaming the columns, changing the data types, removing errors, filtering rows, and more. Okay. Once you are satisfied with the changes, simply you just have to click on this close and apply. Okay. And then what the Power BI will do is it will load all the data, all the clean and transform data into the Power BI desktop. Okay. All the data will be loaded. So this is the proper way to bring a CSV file into the Power BI. Let me just give you a brief here. So you have to click on the get data. You have to select the data sources from where you want to bring the data. So I have selected this text CSV, and then you have to just select the file. Okay, and you just have two options: load the data and transform data. You just have to click on the transform data. Okay, and then you will get into the Power Query Editor, and you can just here transform your data and clean your data, and then you just have to click on close and apply, and then all the data will be loaded in the Power BI text. Okay, so till now, any questions or any doubt regarding what I have explained right now? Please go ahead. Yes or no, guys? Do you have any questions? No questions, or just tell me yes or questions or no. I'm assuming that there will be no question. Okay, so this is how we can import the data using the CSV file. Let me just close this. Just don't want to save it now. Discard this. Now let's see how to import the data from an Excel file. Okay, to get an Excel workbook, you can either simply click on this Excel workbook, or you can go in here, get data, and from here you can select the Excel workbook. And I will select an Excel file stored in my system. So please select this sample superstore. I will click on open. So once you will click on open, Power BI will then read the workbook and prompt you to select the sheets, okay, or tables you would like to import. Okay. So at this point, you can either select all the sheets here. Okay, or you can pick any specific one like this. You can bring whatever the requirement would be. You can bring as per the requirement. Okay, so from this point, the process is straightforward, just like the CSV files. Okay, you can either click on this load button, or you can select this transform data. This load, what it will do is it will import the data directly into the Power BI desktop. If you will select this transform data, then it will take you to the Power Query editor where you can clean and prepare the data beforehand. Okay, so if any issues or errors arise during this process, don't worry, they can always be addressed later using the Power Query editor, which we will explore in more detail later. Okay. So for now, our main goal is to understand how to successfully bring the data into the Power BI desktop. Okay, so this is the another way or the another source through which we can connect our Power BI and we can import the data. Okay, so now let me show you how to connect the Power BI to a database, specifically SQL Server. Okay, so first, an important point to remember is that before connecting any databases to with the Power BI desktop, make sure your database instance must be running in order to successfully connect and pull the data into the Power BI. Okay, so let me open the SQL Server. So once you launch it, take a note of your server's name. Okay, in my case, it's Ingenious. Okay, make sure you remember this because you will need to enter the server's name when you connect from the Power BI. Okay, so to start the server, this server, I have to just click on connect. Okay, so here you can see my database. Okay, the list of databases available on the server. Okay, here I have two databases, AdventureWorks 2014 and AdventureWorks 2019. Now let's try to import one of these databases into the Power BI. Okay, for that, let's go to the Power BI itself. Okay, and here I will go to the this option, get data. I'll go to the store, and from more, I will select here. You can see SQL Server database. Okay, and I will select it. Okay, and there are many databases around here, like Oracle database, IBM database. So whatever database you want to connect it with, you can connect it with from here. Okay. So I have opened my SQL Server database. So I have selected the SQL Server database and I will click on connect. So next Power BI will prompt you to enter the server name. And my server name is nothing but Genius. Okay. And also I have to mention the database name. Okay. You want to connect. So I'll try to bring the adventure works. Let me bring the 2014 database. So for now, I will keep the data connectivity mode set to import. Okay. And we will discuss about this import mode and the directory mode. So just for now, I will just keep it as import and I will click on okay. So give it a moment. Power BI will now connect to the database. It's trying to connect to the database. So as soon as you click on OK, you will see a window displaying all the objects within that database, including table, views, store procedures, and all those things. Okay. So from this window, you can select any number of tables, okay, or views you would like to import. For example, I will select few tables. Let's say something from production schema. Let me select something. Let's say production location. Okay. And also some from sales. System. Okay. Sales start order detail. Let me load all this tables. And after selecting, just click on load. Okay. And if you will click on load, so if there will be no errors or any transformations needed, Power BI will start importing these tables without giving any errors. Okay. Like you can see, it is evaluating and it will check if there are any errors or anything. And if there will be no errors or anything, it will just load it into the Power BI desktop. Okay. So let it load. So yeah, once loaded, okay, you will see all the imported tables listed here in the data frame. You can see on the right hand side, we have all the tables which I have selected has been loaded. Okay. And to view the actual table structures and the data, you just have to go to this table view. Okay. And here, if you select any table, it will show you same thing. Okay. As you can see, we have imported these tables successfully. And then you can go for different tables and you can see what are these tables. Okay. And that's how you successfully connect Power BI to a SQL Server database and you have imported the data. Okay. And before proceeding further, any questions or any doubt? Yes or no? At least give me a response either in the chat as well. Are you guys there?
Yeah, no question.
No
Okay.
question.
Thanks. Thank you. So as I have imported the tables or the data from my SQL Server database. Okay. Now there's more flexibility when importing the data into the Power BI. Okay. For instance, if you want to import only specific columns or filtered data, okay, from a table instead of the entire data set or the table. Okay. So you can do that as well. okay, by writing the SQL query during the import process. Okay. Let me give you an example. Let's say you want to work with this sales order detail. Okay, but we are only interested in records where the, let's say, this order quantity is greater than 10. Okay, I want only those records whose order quantity is greater than 10. And we can see here there are uh, many values in the order quantity. So I want only those values where the order quantity is greater than 10. So we want to filter it so that only rows where the quantity exceeds 10. Okay. Those will be only brought into the Power BI. Now, assuming you are familiar with basic SQL queries, so this would simply be what? Let me just show you. Okay. I will go here, big data, and I will go to this SQL server. Again, I have to give the server name, changes, and the database name, the adventure. Okay. Okay. Now, what I will do is I will go to this advanced option. Okay. And here I have to just type my SQL query. Okay. And the requirement was I want the rows only where the order quantity would be greater than 10. Okay. So the SQL query will be very simple. That is select star from table name is this sales dot. Okay, I will write it sales dot sales order. Okay. Okay. So select the star from sales dot sales order detail, and the condition was, so to use the condition we use the where clause. If you guys have knowledge about this SQL, okay. And the requirement was to get the order quantity. It was written as order QTY. This should be greater than 10. Okay. Now, what I will do is I will just simply click on OK. So Power BI will execute that query and import only the filter data. So this is the preview. And if I will click on load, so what will happen? Sometimes with the databases, okay, depends on the speed of the network and the database speed. Okay, so we're working in an organization, these things will be too much fast. I'm using my personal system. This system. Now let me show you what happens. You can go to this table here. And you can see, okay, you can see the table has been loaded, but the important thing to be noted here is that you can see the table has been loaded with the name called as query1 because we have used query to load that data. Okay, so here if you will click on this query1 now, here you can see order quantity is always greater than 10. Here you can see no values are here which is less than or equals to 10. So only those records have been imported whose order quantity is greater than 10. So the bottom line is that you can write SQL queries as well while importing the data into the Power BI only when you are using the databases. Okay. Hope this is clear how to bring the data from Microsoft SQL Server database or any doubt, please go ahead and ask. If no questions, then I will proceed. Okay. Now, let me go to the report view. Now, let me also connect to some of the web databases. Okay, let me open the file first. So let's say if certain website is free to use, I mean the data in the website there is not subjected to security risk. Okay, so that data from website also you can get into the Power BI. So let me show you how that can be done. I'll just copy this site. I have already kept this site name to show you how to bring the data using the web database. Okay, so here you just have to go to get data. Here you have to go to the mode. Here we will have the option of the web search. Okay, here you go and click on connect. And here it is asking me the URL. And if I will paste it in here, and once you will click on OK, we will start connecting with that web database. Okay. So loading. So just trying to load the preview of those tables, which will come from that particular website. Okay. Let it get load. Okay. Hmm. If you see, there are certain tables, okay, that you can get from that particular website. Okay. So this that website, okay, which we have used, basically gives you the population growth rate through the years. So let me get one or two tables from here. You can let me just let me just load these two tables. Okay. So and we can directly load them because they are structured data. We don't need to clean or transform any of these things? Evaluation. Mm. Okay. Let's show you some this to transform the data of the data. We have this string is also what I've removed the errors and now it has been loaded successfully into the Power BI text. Like you can see, table 5 and table 6. So this is the way to get the data from different sources into the Power BI desktop. Okay, but there are few more sources. Like let me just show you. Few, yeah. So we have seen how to bring the CSV flat files, Excel worksheets, SQL Server database, and also the web database. And there are few likes we can also bring the data from the SharePoint folders, Access databases, etc. Okay. So that is basically this thing you can bring the data from different sources. And this is very important because let us say if you are facing the interviews, they will ask you this question, how many data sources have you worked on in Power BI? Okay. So you can definitely say SQL Server database, MySQL Server database, okay, CSV flat files, Excel files, and all those things. So you can tell them the answer and you know how to get the data from those particular sources. Okay, so this is the way we can bring the data from the different sources. You just have to go in here, get data, and you just have to select that particular data source from where you want to bring the data into the Power BI desktop. Okay, so any questions related how we bring the data into the Power BI desktop? Yes, no, no questions. Okay, so if there are no questions, yeah, so let's proceed. So yeah, that's about bringing the data from different sources, and these are the ways we can bring the data from the different sources. Okay, and there is different storage modes in Power BI, and this is also called as different import modes. Okay? So there are different ways to get in the data into the Power BI. I'm not talking about the different sources now. I'm talking about the way in which you bring the data into the Power BI. Okay? So let me just show you. So the things which we have discussed till now, this thing which we have discussed about what are the different sources from where we can get the data. These are the different sources. But the thing which we are going to discuss now is the way how we can bring the data into the Power BI text. Okay. So let me open a new Power BI instance. So I can show you in that. And we have another Power BI instance. Okay. Now, let me show you what I mean by this thing, storage modes in Power BI. Okay. Let me show you. Again, I want to get the data from the SQL server. Let's say I'm using this SQL server to get the data. So here I will have to just mention my server name, that is Genius, and the database from which I will get the data this time would be Adventure Box 2019. Okay. As you can see, we have two databases here, like AdventureWorks 2014 and AdventureWorks 2019. Now this time I will bring the data from this AdventureWorks 2019. So now here, if you see, we have two options available. Okay, that is import mode and the direct query. Okay, so the import mode is given by default, but what happens if you click direct query? Okay, let me show you that. Okay, because we have already seen that if I will select this import mode and if I will click on OK, then it will show me the tables in the preview and then we have to load it them into the Power BI desktop. But what if I will select this direct query? Okay. So let's discuss this. Okay. So if I will click on OK, so it is asking me again to bring these certain tables. So if I select certain tables like, let's say, select this customer. Okay, these customers fine. Let it load first. Okay, then it says it's sales order details and a few more like sales and the vegan currency. Okay, now I have selected these tables and I will click on load. So just trying to create the connection. First of all, let me save this file. Okay, so so still not knowing why. I think it got stuck due to the database like this reopen. No, it's true. Like the blank report, try to import it again by using the direct query mode. So what will happen? Sprint server, something mention the database, and I will use the direct query mode. If on, if we get some data here, let's say there's customer, I don't see those all these tables we have selected. Just take people node. I'm just trying to route the data into the Power BI desktop. Okay, has been loaded now. So these tables I have plotted using the direct query mode. Okay, and if I open the Power BI, which I have in which I have imported the data using the import mode. Let's see the difference between the data itself. Okay, so now take a look at this GUI. Okay, in which I have imported the data using the import mode. And if I will go in here uh, into this one, okay, this is the GUI where I have imported the data using the direct query mode. Okay, I have loaded the data using the direct query mode. Okay, so here you will find the differences between both these two options. Okay, here you can see we have only three reports, sorry, three views. That is the report view, The another one is model view and the DAX view. Okay, and the table where the Power BI where we have imported the table using the import mode, we have the report view, the table view, the model view, and the DAX view. The thing is here the table view is missing. Okay, and I will tell you why. And one more thing, if you go to this model view, okay, each of these tables, okay, here each of these tables are highlighted by this blue color at the top. Okay, but if you go to this instance of Power BI where we have loaded the data using the import mode, if I will go to the model view, automation, okay. So what I'm telling is, so in that, when you will open that model view, in that you will not find this blue color. Okay, so that is the difference between the bringing the data via the import mode and the direct query mode. The direct query mode, you won't find the table view. Okay, so now I will tell you the real difference between the import mode and the direct query. Now, when you bring the data into the Power BI by import mode, it means you are actually bringing the data into the Power BI desktop. Okay, I'm talking about the physical data. Hmm. So the thing is, when you use the import mode, you are actually bringing the data into the Power BI desktop. Okay, but when you are using the direct query mode, okay, then what you are doing is you are just establishing the connection of the Power BI with the backend data sources. Okay, data is not coming into the Power BI and getting stored in the Power BI desktop. Instead, Power BI is just establishing the connection to the backend where the data is coming. Okay, and that is the prime difference. And in import mode, what happens is that, let me open the X. So here we have import mode, and here we have direct query mode. So the differences is like here we are actually bringing the data into the Power BI. Okay, data is getting stored in PBA. Here, what is happening? Only the connections between the front end and the back end interface. Okay. This is the first point. The first difference between import mode and the direct query mode. Okay, and not only this, the data which is coming into the Power BI using the import mode, that is not just getting stored in the Power BI, but it is also getting compressed. Okay, by the Power BI engine, which is known as Vertipack compressor engine. Okay, so these data which are getting into the Power BI using the import mode, these are compressed using the Vertipack compressor engine. Okay, so that is the another thing. Okay, let me just tell you the next thing. So in short, what happens is in import mode, the data is coming into the Power BI and it is stored in the Power BI desktop. And not just that, it is also get compressed by the Vertipack compressor engine of Power BI. So that is the thing about this one. Now, let me just go here. We have import mode using the Vertipack, direct query mode. We have also discussed this direct query mode. Okay, now, so now let's discuss the differences in very much detail with regarding the import mode and the direct query. Okay. Now, the first thing is here is there is the limit, okay, of the data which can be brought into the Power BI in import. So up to 100 GB per data set for Premier license. Okay, but for the direct query mode, there is no limitation. You can bring any size of the data into the not into the Power BI. You can just establishing the connection between the Power BI and the backend data sources. Okay, so that is the first thing. Now there is one more thing. When you are using the import mode, okay, the data from multiple sources. What I mean is, some tables you can get it from CSV files, some of them you can get from the Excel, and some of the data you can bring it from the SQL server. Whereas if you are using the direct query mode, okay, the data mostly comes from one single sources. Okay, only then it will be more impactful or successful. Okay, but in earlier one version of the Power BI, the data were coming only from a single sources. But now we can bring the different like we can bring the data from different sources in using the direct query mode as well. Okay, so this is the difference between the import mode and the direct query mode. And then the next thing is the performance of the model. Okay, uh, it will be high when you are using the import mode. Okay, but when you are using the direct query mode, it will depends on how fast your server is. And let's say if you are bringing the data from the SQL server, your SQL server needs to be fast. If that is taking a heavy load and if it gets slow, then same will reflected in Power BI. So that is one of the another difference. Okay, and then I think this we have already discussed. So if you do any changes in the backend while using the direct query, okay, those will immediately reflected in the Power BI. Whereas if you do any changes in the import mode, they will not be reflected in Power BI until you do manual refresh. So that is the also the thing to be noted here. Okay. So the next point is, and in import mode, the data will be stored in Power BI. Okay. But when you're using the direct query mode, the data will not be stored in the Power BI. It will just create the connection, okay, that we have already discussed. And also, it is very important to note that the data will not just stored in the Power BI, but it is also compressed and stored using the Vertipack compressor engine. Okay, and yes, the maximum uh, there will be 48 refreshes that can be done per day while using the import mode, and that too if you are having a premium capacity license. If you are having a pro license, then only 10 refreshes per day are possible. But if you are in direct query mode, you can do the refresh as often as 15 minutes. Okay. And let's say you open a file, again, it will be refreshed once again. Okay. So every time you open the file, the data will get refreshed. Okay. So that is the another thing. Now, there are certain advantages for import mode. Now, as far as the Power Query Editor is concerned, import mode supports all kinds of transformations, whereas some of the transformations are not possible in the direct query mode. Okay. Similarly, the DAX function, which we will discuss. Okay. So the DAX function will be supported in import mode, whereas some of the DAX functions will not be supported in the direct query mode. Okay. And importantly, the calculated tables can be calculated or created in import mode, and they are not supported in direct query. Okay. And there are certain further more differences which are enlisted here. You can go through that. Okay. So this is the elaborate difference between direct query mode and the import mode. So, and now we can, okay, this is the difference between direct query mode and all this. Okay. And then we have two more modes, that is the live connection and the dual mode. Okay. So let's just discuss that. Just let's just discuss this live connection and the dual mode. I think Power BI, this one is not responding. So let's do that in the next class. So we will discuss this live connection and the dual mode in tomorrow's class. So I will stop here and we will connect tomorrow and we will discuss this to these two storage modes in tomorrow's class. And I will check what is happening with my Power BI working in here. Okay. So it is giving me some errors. Okay. So fine. Fine then. I will stop here. If you guys have any question or any doubt, please go ahead. You guys have any doubt or any question?